Good morning. Today I will be talking about why the South lost the war, but first, let's start with Senator Robert Toombs' account on his comparison with secession with the American Revolution. He argues that the reason some states want to secede from the Union is because of the same reasons why those who came before them fought against the British. These reasons being for liberty, sovereignty, and independence. In his eyes, these were supposedly secured by the Constitution, but he claims that the Constitution has been violated and broken by the Abolition Party. Toombs states that he could go to any other country in Europe with his slave without violating the law, and he wants that kind of freedom in his home country as well. In order to achieve this freedom, he believes that secession is the way to go. Next, let's dive into the diary written by Margaret J. Preston, describing her suffering during the Civil War. Over the course of a few months in 1862, Preston describes the disaster that is the South. Schools are closed, most men are gone, stores are closed, and goods are either not available or are too expensive to purchase. Her description shows one of the reasons why the South lost the war, which is because of their lack of troops and supplies. Unlike the North, the South was not able to replace the high casualties, and the North had also put a naval blockade on the South which had caused a great shortage in food, clothes, and even shoes for troops. Civilians suffered greatly from the shortages as well, causing bread riots, like those shown on the screen, to break out in the state of Alabama about a year after Preston's diary was written. Foner goes into more detail on the different strategies that each side took, which contributed to the South losing. The effectiveness of political leadership, the ability to mobilize economic resources, and a society's willingness to keep up the fight were just as crucial as the successes and failures on the battlefields. When comparing the Union versus a Confederacy, most comparisons favored the Union. The North and loyal border states consisted of 22 million people with more manufacturing, railroad mileage, and financial resources, whereas the South had only 9 million people, 3.5 million of them being slaves. In the North, it was Lincoln's goal to defeat the individual armies and to attack the South's economic and social foundation, which was slavery. The South, on the other hand, played more of a defensive role and emphasized the importance of forts and elaborate trenches that gave them advantages. Not only was the South fighting the North, but they were also having an inner civil war. Many of the slaveholders were released from the draft due to a provision that was made allowing one white man to stay for every 20 slaves he owned, and the non-slaveholders began to realize that it was a rich man's war but a poor man's fight. Also, after the decline of Southern production, many non-slaveholders thought that they were bearing an unfair share of the war's burdens. Many Southern white women contributed to the decline in civilian morale, which encouraged many troops to desert the army. The war became so long that there were even peace movements and secret pro-Union societies in the South. The Union had a difficult task of restoring a shattered nation, but with the leader of Abraham Lincoln and the downfall of the South from within, they were able to defeat the South and win the Civil War.